What's going on, Jets fans? It's your boy DT back with a preseason game preview video. Hope everybody's having a good week. I had a little bit of a scare earlier this week. I had a sore throat, went to the doctor, got the antibiotics just in case. Turns out it's not strep, but just a bacterial infection. So we're going to fight through it. I got some tea over here to help me, but I just wanted to go through basically position by position at key battle spots that I think can round out this 53-man roster, if not some of the priority practice squad guys heading into the Jets' final preseason game, the showcase game for some of these 3 and 4s versus the Philadelphia Eagles tonight. So quarterback position, obviously with Tyrod Taylor on the injury report with the knee scope in recent weeks. I don't know if he's going to be ready for week 1. The coaching staff seems like he will be ready, but in the off chance that he's not ready to go week 1, can Brady Cook or Adrian Martinez show you enough to keep a third quarterback for at least the first week of the season? I don't know if that's necessarily the most optimal path for the Jets. I think they should just roster 2 quarterbacks and call one up in an emergency situation. So that's also a possibility for the quarterback position. But I do want to see if Brady Cook or Adrian Martinez can stand out from one another. Adrian Martinez has been getting the ball first with the 2s or the 3s, and then Cook comes in with the 4s and kind of ends the game. So I want to see maybe they reverse that and give Brady Cook some time with the 2s and 3s, but I want to see if one of those guys can stick out over the other to be, priority stashed on the practice squad or be that emergency third quarterback for week 1 if Tyrod is not ready. Running backs, I think it's pretty straightforward. I think Donovan Edwards is going to eventually be cut and claimed by somebody else. But can you possibly trade Donovan Edwards right before the cut down deadline and, get a 6th or a 7th conditional pick back for Donovan Edwards, as somebody else's running back 3 or running back 2 potentially that they see for their fit on their roster? I just don't see with a healthy full unit at running back, Breece Hall, Braylon Allen, Isaiah Davis, Kene Nwangu has the special teams upside, so he has the advantage over Edwards. So I don't see them keeping 5 running backs. So maybe Donovan Edwards gets traded at the deadline, but he can have another great game and get a bigger reward in terms of a trade instead of having to cut him if he goes out and does well tonight. Wide receivers, I'm looking at Jamal Pritchett, Quentin Skinner, and Brandon Smith. I really want to see one of these guys, if not 2, make the roster. In my last week's 53-man roster prediction, I had Pritchett and Brandon Smith making the roster. Quentin Skinner has been coming on as of late. He had the fantastic catch in the end zone for a touchdown against the Giants, but I do think Jamal Pritchett with his special teams upside as a punt returner, and then Brandon Smith's upside, just playing with the 2s and actually showing his worth. It felt like he could have gotten a chance with the 1s and Justin Fields if they played more in the preseason. So I like the way that Brandon Smith is, looking for this roster. He could be a, maybe not a 1-to-1 Allen Lazard replacement because I think he still needs to improve in the blocking game, but he gives you something in the blocking game. He's not a complete, waste out there, and you can put him in 12 personnel opposite Garrett Wilson, and he can give you something if they want to run off his side. So I think Brandon Smith would be the first guy up, and then I would take Pritchett for special teams upside. But can Quentin Skinner give you something as well? Tight end, I've kind of been harping on this, and I didn't want to put him in the thumbnail, but Jeremy Ruckert again. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if this is Jeremy Ruckert's final game with the New York Jets. So it's just been completely underwhelming for him in his first 3 seasons. Can he or Zach Kuntz or Neil Johnson potentially show you something at tight end where you don't go get a cut down tight end who's just as good? I feel like you can go get the same output and production at tight end 4 from a cut down tight end on somebody else's roster. So maybe they just hold off and they go into the season on the initial 53 with just 3, Mason Taylor, Andrew Beck, and Stone Smart, and then they cut down, they claim a tight end and swap him for Ruckert on the back end. So that's what I'm looking for at tight end. Can one of those guys stick out? Offensive lineman, the only one I'm really watching for is Carter Warren. Can he really show you anything? To me, he would be your, 5th offensive tackle, and I don't see them keeping 4 offensive tackles. Right now I have them just keeping 4 with Mitchell and Chuks Okorafor as the tackle replacements for Fashanu and Membu. So does Carter Warren show you enough to stick on the roster as, a Joe Douglas 5th-round pick out of Pittsburgh a couple years ago? I don't think so, but we'll see. He's the only guy I'm really watching for. Everybody else is, we know where they stand. Maybe Cole Laval is another name that I'll use here because can he show you something to stick on as one of your 9 or 10 offensive linemen? I had him in my prediction as, a primary backup at guard. I also favor keeping more offensive linemen than maybe NFL teams do. I always like to keep 10. So if they keep 9, maybe he's the guy who's left off. But I'm watching for Cole Laval and Carter Warren. Flipping over to the defense, I'm looking at interior defensive line with the additions of Harrison Phillips and Jawan Briggs from Cleveland. I made videos of those. If you haven't, go back and check those out. My initial thoughts on those trades, my reaction thoughts. So Phillips and Briggs are going to make the roster. Obviously, you just traded draft capital for them. So I'm looking at Leonard Taylor III, Peyton Page, or Fatorma Mulba. Can one of these guys stick on the roster at the back end? I hope it would be Taylor III, and maybe he's somebody you would consider if Byron Cowart, the penciled-in starter next to Quinnen before the Harrison Phillips trade happened, he was the guy who was looked at as the pass rush, or the guy next to Quinnen, excuse me. So can Leonard Taylor the third stick on the roster if Cowart goes to IR? And then you have Phillips obviously manning the starter spot next to Quinnen now. Briggs is going to factor into this. Maybe they keep 5 defensive interior linemen. So it would be Quinnen, Cowart if he's not on the IR, J2 Phillips, and Briggs would be your 5. So Cowart is really, the only path to one of these extra guys sticking on if he is on the injured reserve list to start the season. So Leonard Taylor III, Peyton Page, or Fatorma Mulba, can one of those guys stick out to me? Edge, I'm looking at Tyler Barron, the rookie from Miami, Eric Watts, Braden McGregor, and Kingsley Jonathan. Kingsley Jonathan had the best game out of all the edges that played last week because Will McDonald wasn't in. Jermaine Johnson hasn't played. Michael Clemens was your, quote unquote, best edge out there against the Giants. And I thought Kingsley Jonathan did the best job of all those guys. So can he, do more off of that good performance against the Eagles tonight to prove that he can stick on as that, third edge, at least while Jermaine's getting healthy? Tyler Barron, I said it before, I feel like if he wasn't a rookie right now, he wouldn't even get the benefit of the doubt and he would be cut. So Tyler Barron is one I'm really watching for because do the coaching staff and front office show loyalty to one of their later round picks, or do they say, you know what, we're okay cutting ties with that and adding maybe a cut down or a veteran edge that we've all been hoping for? So Tyler Barron to me is one to watch. Watson, McGregor, we kind of know what it is with them. They're fighting to make the roster. Braden McGregor got the start, quote unquote, with the ones last week, and it didn't look good. And then Eric Watts, I feel like he has Javon Kinlaw syndrome at times where he just doesn't care about the play and he just is headhunting and he's like an independent contractor. So Eric Watts, to me, I don't think he stays. McGregor, no. So maybe it just comes down to Tyler Barron and Kingsley Jonathan versus a free agent addition or maybe a trade candidate. I don't think they would trade for an edge at this point. But, obviously Zadarius Smith, Jadeveon Clowney, those guys are still out there. So I would weigh in what Barron, Watts, and McGregor give you versus a free agent. And I feel like the free agent would win 9 times out of 10 there. So moving on to linebacker, another rookie, Kiko Maligoa, Zaire Barnes, Jackson Sermon, Arthur Smith, Jamarcus Weston, all the really depth linebackers. I don't know how many they're going to keep, 4, maybe 5 at the very most, 5 linebackers. So again, does Maligoa get the pass for being a rookie, even though he hasn't really shown much? Marcelino McCreary-Ball, I guess you could also put him in here too. He's not safe. So this one's probably the hardest room to predict. I would think Jamin Davis is the closest to a lock outside of Quincy and Sherwood. So out of those 3, you're only really keeping 1, maybe 2 more guys. So Maligoa right now, I would say probably because he's the rookie. And I don't know, how do they feel about Jackson Sermon, who made a good play in the end zone that resulted in an interception last week against the Giants? I'm not sure. Maybe Jamarcus Weston because of his special teams versatility. So the linebacker position is probably the most unclear, and I haven't been impressed with any of them really outside of our 2 starters. So I'll be really watching at the second level of the defense tonight. And then DBs, I kind of lumped these all together, but they're mostly safeties. Jarek Bernard Converse and Jarius Monroe, they do give you versatility, right? They'll play cornerback. So there is some upside with those 2 guys. And then it's Jordan Clark and Dean Clark. Dean Clark has probably, shown us the most in preseason. I don't know what the camp reports are comparing the two of them, but I think there's positives to both of their games. And if I had to guess, maybe Dean Clark has the edge, but I would like to see them try to keep Jarek Bernard Converse if they're not going to flip him for like a wide receiver 3 and a late round pick swap or something of that nature. Like JBC is a guy I really could see you getting something for in return via a trade at cut down instead of having to cut someone in a strength room like the cornerback position is. We have 5 or 6 really good cornerbacks, in my opinion. So maybe they want to, start JBC or play JBC at safety, and they like his versatility. So I'm intrigued by those DBs. But that's going to do it for this one. Quick thoughts on who to watch in this final game for the Jets versus the Philadelphia Eagles. One more preseason game until the regular season. We get a nice little 2-week break, let everybody get healthy on the team, and then we start game planning for Pittsburgh. That really will start tomorrow, I assume, with Aaron Glenn knowing the way that he likes to coach this team. So one more game against the Philadelphia Eagles. Let's end on a high note. No injuries. Let's show some competency. Can any of these guys stick out and stick on the roster? Appreciate everybody tuning in. Since I don't have strep throat, I'm going to do the film review tomorrow. I won't be doing a deep dive into this game other than some quick recap notes. So I'm going to do my film dive on Justin Fields and the starters tomorrow at some point. I'm not sure if it'll be live or pre-recorded. You'll know either way. I'll put it out on Twitter and on YouTube as well. So I appreciate everybody tuning in. Hit the like button on your way out. Game day, baby. Let's go Jets. And until next time, screw the Philadelphia Eagles. Let's go Jets.